Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Lunchtime Learning. I'm delighted to be joined today by Karen Stanley. Karen is a partner at Stanley Strategic Consultants. So thank you very much for joining me. Yeah, it was a mouthful, so thank you. I've been practicing all night. I haven't slept.
Good thing.
So thank you very much for joining me. So Karen, tell us a little bit about yourself. You were a solicitor, it's my understanding, and then you went from being a solicitor to running a lettings business agency for a number of years. I think it was 26 years, if memory serves me correctly. So how did you go from being a solicitor to becoming a letting agent? Why would you do such a thing?
Good morning, Stephen. Thank you very much for inviting me today. Yes, it is a bit of a jump, really. It's all down to my husband. He introduced me to property. He grew up in his family's property agency, and we met at university studying law. I went on to practice as a solicitor, doing civil litigation, a little bit of property, and lots of other different things. And it came to a point many years later that his parents wanted to retire from the business, and we decided to buy them out. So that's why I jumped into property. Now, this was back in the time of word processing and data merging and, few regulations back in the late 1990s. But of course, we had the Housing Act 1988 that came in with the short-hold tenancies. And we had ALA's buy-to-let mortgages coming in, which saw an explosion in the private rented sector. So we decided to run the agency as an independent specialist letting agency. Then, of course, we've had more and more regulations ever since, and it's not stopping, which to me is really exciting because I'm doing as much law now as I ever did in practice. I reviewed all the laws in the office, wrote all the legal documents, created all the standard letters and procedures, trained all our staff in-house, and then met with our staff to do reviews, checking out how it's working actually in practice, making changes along the way, and setting all the strategies and goals. So yes, we ran the independent agency for over 23 years, growing in experience and value. We ran a Facebook group for landlords, a private group where they could share their concerns and problems, and we could provide tips along the way. And converted them through lead funnels, writing many ebooks along the way, explaining what they need to do and how to prepare their properties and how to get the most out of their financial investment, really. And then last year or so, we got to a stage where we thought, well, we're either going to invest and buy more portfolios and invest in business, or while we're young enough, take a new direction. And we decided that we really wanted another challenge. So we sold our agency to a large corporate who was exacting on compliance. They purchased it. So now that we can run compliance consultancy instead. So we support other agents now in their compliance needs and in due diligence when they come to sell or purchase more portfolios.
Fantastic.
Yeah, which is really lovely. It's lovely to see things grow and lovely to help agents to realise their dream. They've started their business. It's their baby. We knew very much it was our name above the door. We care very much about our business and what we stood for. And we understand that about our own clients. And to enable them to realise their dreams to go off and retire or go on to new things is really nice. Unfortunately, we see all too often them fail to reach their full value because of lack of compliance. We aim to assist with that as much as possible, but sometimes it's beyond saving and there are difficulties, but we always try and find ways around it as much as possible.
Okay, brilliant. God, there's loads to unpack there. So thank you for sharing all of that. So I just want to come back to when you first bought the agency of your outlaws. What were your initial challenges then, and how did you then build up your letting portfolio?
So the initial challenges really were internal. We were the youngest in the firm. The rest of the staff were our parents' age, and they saw us as like their children. And we were the same age as their children. So we had to kind of get over that issue for a while. With the first year, we sat back and just watched what was going on, and then gradually realized what we had: 2 offices, everybody was doing their own thing. There was which to me was really scary, coming from a very regulated background. And hang on a minute, I can't cope with this. I need to know what people are doing. I need them trained, and so I know what they're going to be saying. I need standard letters. I need standard procedures. So that's when I set about creating in the background, and then gradually introduced it to the members of staff. And of course, we didn't have the big CRM systems that we have today. So it was a lot harder, I think, back then. But they accepted it, and we were able to move forward. And we were known for the professionalism. They knew that we were lawyers first, letting agents second, and that's how we treated all our business. What does the law say first? What does our contract say? Making sure that our contracts are fair for landlord and tenant going forward.
So how did you then manage to, so some of the things I like that you said, because obviously Facebook wasn't around then for these Facebook groups for landlords, but initially what were you doing to increase your letting portfolio? Obviously there was an explosion of buy to lets. Everybody wanted to become landlords, and I can understand why. Now it's incredibly more complex. Well over 174 different types of lettings legislation. So a lot of landlords are actually leaving selling their properties now. What would you be doing to try and find more landlords today?
Today, it has to be lead funnels. There's 82% of landlords out there who are self-managing. That's a shocking statistic. That means that all letting agents are going after 18% of landlords. So we need to talk to them in a different way. They're let-only landlords. They're entrepreneurial, just like you. Do we like to be told when we're doing something wrong? Do we like to be told that other people can do it better? Probably not. So you have to engage them in a different manner. So we worked in a Facebook group. We had mass advertising through Facebook and Google and YouTube channels. And it was a matter of building relationships, long-term relationships, and eventually something will happen, a new piece of legislation, and they'll go, okay, I've had enough, here you go, take my properties. And that's the way to do it, I think.
Okay, and was that a local Facebook group for your area, or did you try and take it a lot wider?
You've got to be careful. You can advertise and spend a fortune on Facebook with the right support and right help. You can target that the spending, the ad spending to your targeted areas. So we were limited to a certain area for where we knew our landlords were purchasing, and most landlords live within 10 miles or so of the property that they're renting out, unless you're going to invest in properties in the north, for example, where things are cheaper. Then you could be sort of more mass advertising to our local market. I mean, we're in the southeast. It's a highly expensive area, and we had well-connected and high socioeconomic landlords who would look after their portfolios, and not always, heavily mortgage dependent. So it depends on where your clientele is and where you advertise. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. So you also talked about the lead funnels and the ebooks. So what sort of ebooks, for people watching this, and guides were you using that worked well?
So the classic landlord compliance checklist, which everybody wants to download, 500 downloads on that. They think they can do it themselves, but of course they can't actually do it themselves unless they know all the laws behind it. So we gave them as much information as possible to explain and confirm just how complicated the rules and regulations are. If they get it wrong, there's huge fines and penalties. And then we were able to use that as a lead. So somebody would download it, we give them a call, have a chat with them. Yes, we've been looking after our properties. Would you like us to come out and have a chat with you, see how you did on this compliance checklist? And we were able to then convert. You come across landlords who haven't registered the tenancy deposit and things like that, and you go, okay, well, actually, we just calculated that's a £20,000 fine. You might want to get this sorted and create a full stop from now, and we were able to give them help and tips, and then take on some of the work, which is good.
Fantastic. So any other tips that you can give from, you may have let only landlords,
Yes.
and you want to convert those let only landlords into fully managed, apart from a compliance checklist, anything else that would help people that are watching this?
Yeah, two things. So we also joined forces with an accountancy firm so that we were able to give them advice and direction as to what they could actually include and take into account in their accounting system so that they didn't pay tax where they're necessary. We were also preparing for Making Tax Digital, which is coming down the line in 2026. I think they've now put the date for. If you have self-employed income from any property or other over £50,000, I think they've raised the limit now. So that's coming on board, and agents can get involved with helping landlords take over perhaps some of the burden of that. And we also taught our staff the right kind of conversations to have with these landlords so that you can try and convert them. You can guarantee that landlords will only know about 7 laws in relation to lettings. And as you say, there's 170 laws and 400 regulations. In fact, I was doing a little tally yesterday from some of the major legislation that's come in. We've had 18 large legislative changes in the last 25 years, 8 of which have been in the last 10 years. It was huge. No other industry, solicitors obviously have to deal with this if they're dealing with property, but generally on how they do their business, or accountants only have 1 new law a year. Even estate agents don't have this. They have 2 main laws and CPRs and the rest of it. But the major legislative changes has all been on lettings. It's huge. And landlords don't know that. So the more you educate them, the more you inform them of how difficult it could be, and the fines and penalties that they could incur, they're more likely to turn around and give it to you. So now is absolutely the time for agents to be seeing exactly what we do for the money.
Look, I couldn't agree more with the education and whether it's on. I'm a firm believer that the public don't understand estate agency, letting agency, what solicitors do, what accountants do, and I think we have to go out and explain it more. And one of the things that I think would be of interest is, you talked about an accountant. How many letting agents have done what we're doing now with an accountant, just, explaining it and then actually putting it into local Facebook groups, so not just your own Facebook group, but, you may be a local landlord. I just thought I'd record with an accountant some information to help you with your tax. Well, how useful is that? And you're educating landlords. There may be some accidental landlords out there that have inherited the property. There may be that, they just, we're coming to a market where some people can't sell, so they're going to have to rent out.
Yes.
But do people actually know, as you said, the 170 plus laws and the 400 plus regulations? They don't.
They don't.
But the more we can educate it. In fact, I was on a webinar with some conveyancers. And I asked a couple of questions. We did a poll, and I think there's about 111 conveyancers. I know they were signed up. Whether they were all there was another thing. But I just said, can I ask you, how many of you have been asked to go into an estate agency to give a training session to their colleagues? No. And then I said, on the flip side, how many estate agents have asked to go into a conveyancing office to understand how you do it, what you do? None. So we all need to be better educated, and then we can use that to help the landlords, the tenants, the sellers, the buyers, the consumer to improve. And it's estate agents especially have got an awful name. There are some rogue letting agents out there as well. But it's the same it's the same in any business. What are your thoughts on the renters reform bill and Roper, and are these going to come in?
Oh, big thoughts, too many thoughts. Yes, it is going to come in some shape or form. It's going to come in. It's got cross-party support. It's just a matter of when. It's going to be at least a minimum of 2 years once it's enacted before it actually applies to all your tenancies. But it is time for agents to be preparing for it now. The tenants that were moving in or who have already moved in 2 years ago will be affected eventually.
Okay, so what can agents, you talk about agents being prepared, what can they do to be prepared for it?
Keep up with what the changes, keep up with what's going on, and make sure that you're compliant now. Absolutely compliant now, because if you're not compliant now, it's going to be a lot worse 2 years time. And start looking at your income streams. I've put together a spreadsheet where you can set out all of your office expenditure. Look at all the things that's coming in and going out, and making sure that you're not duplicating. So making sure that you're actually using all the facilities on your CRM system to the maximum value. Checking that your terms and conditions are tight, and you're not making errors at the moment, so you don't have problems coming back to you later on.
Okay, thank you. So coming on to the consultancy now. Yes. And the compliance and helping people become fully compliant when they sell. So what are you seeing of the most common problems with letting agents when they decide, you know what, I want to retire, I want to move on, and you go in and you sit down with them? What are the most common pitfalls that you are seeing, and how can the agents turn that around?
A lot of the time, if I can get in early enough, they can trade out of it. Sometimes you can't, and then it'll have to be dealt with by indemnities and warranties during the sale. So you're left with that liability once you've walked away. It's not like having your own sweet shop and then you sell it to Mr. Blogs and then you walk away with all your money. And it doesn't work like that with our agencies. You are left. They will hold on to a retention money for a certain period of time, and then, provided the business continues as they're expecting it to, with property numbers or the amount of money that's coming in, depending on how they've worked it, then you might get the money back at the end of a year or so. So, and you still have to give indemnities and warranties that what you've said and what is going on in your business is true. So you can't hide anything. So whilst at the moment you've got trading standards who are not necessarily knocking on your door unless there's a complaint, and you haven't got clients actually taking you to court because you're not compliant about something, that compliance comes to a full stop when you come to sell. And all that value that you've built up, have seen twice this year alone, I was ready to jump in and work on due diligence with a client, and the buyers pulled out because the compliance just wasn't there, wasn't sufficient enough. So it goes from the simplest things of not having the gas safety certificates in place. So it's portfolio compliance, but it's also business compliance of making sure that you've got all the risk assessments in place for anti-money laundering, and you're ticking all the boxes and doing it all properly, evidencing what you're doing, making sure that when you're having your company managers meetings, that you're actually directors meetings, that you're actually making minutes of what's been agreed and why you've agreed it. So yes, there's so many little areas that they're looking at. I mean, it's a huge spreadsheet matrix of due diligence questions, which goes from every single aspect of the business, and it's quite right. I think it's true. The buyer is taking on your business, warts and all. So why should they take on potentially hundreds of thousands of pounds of potential claims if you're not doing something right now?
Okay, lovely. So you are, I believe, congratulations, potentially are in order. You've been nominated.
Yes.
Okay, for the Property Mark Executive Board. I think the members have passed you, and is it going to a vote, or?
Yes, it goes to a members' vote on the 6th of June.
Okay, that's exciting. So talk to me about Property Mark and why you've decided to stand as a candidate.
I'm passionate about the industry, as you can see. 20 odd years down the line, I still absolutely love it. I love the law, and I love how it relates to property. And I'm really keen on raising standards, which I don't want businesses to be able to get to the point of selling and retiring and find that it's not as valuable as it ought to be, you work too hard for it. So I really want to raise standards, and I advocate continuous learning. As you can see, I've just been the first to complete the new joint level 4 professional property agency management course with Property Mark, which I'd advocate for all managers, aspiring managers and owners. It brings together all the things I've just been talking about. So it's all about compliance. It's all about the laws in the first chapter, and it's all about growth and sustainability of your business. So it's managing your staff and advertising, marketing. So it goes through the laws, but it's all for a very, very practical course. So it put into practice. It showed what I've been putting into practice over the last 20 odd years. So I really enjoyed doing it. So I want to see agencies grow and maintain, and I'd also like to see agents get the recognition they deserve. You work really hard. You really do work hard. You know, not only are you an advertiser, you're a HR specialist. You're working on contracts. You're a mediator. You do an awfully big job, and you need to be recognised for the fantastic job you do. Okay. And I'd also love to see Property Mark as the regulator at some point when ROPA does come in.
So you talk about continuous learning.
Yes.
So you've just done, obviously, that training, Arla. What do you do to self-develop and self-grow? Are there any podcast, books that you listen to, read, that you would recommend?
Well, I'm always undertaking courses. So I've been listening to some of your podcasts recently, which has been really lovely. And I'm always going through Property Mark. I've reviewed it. No matter how much you've learned yourself, you constantly need that repetition, because you're not using something, a new piece of knowledge every single day, then it kind of slips back. So okay, I'll go and do a refresher course on anti-money laundering and work on that. Create different processes and procedures as a result of that, so that I can use that with clients and ticking boxes and making sure that everybody's compliant. So yes, it's constant. And I was looking at continuous learning webinar yesterday about fire safety with Justin Bates, I think, KC. Very, very interesting. So I really get excited when I tend to choose lawyers and things like that to listen to. Okay,
fine. So who inspires you, Karen? Anybody out there?
Sally Lawson, ex-president of Arla, Property Mark.
Why Sally?
She's fantastic. I mean, she's worked so hard to get to where she is. I have done some training with her. She is absolutely amazing, and she's helped me have the self-confidence to do what I'm doing right now, I think. Especially for my funnel building. She's fabulous. Gave me an award for that, so I'm very grateful.
She is very good. So if people want to get hold of you, Karen, know a bit more about you, how do they do that?
They can pop along to our website at stanleystrategicconsultants.co.uk, and there's a link on there, or I'm over on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Brilliant.
Karen Stanley.
Thank you so much for your time today. I wish you good luck on the 6th of June. I don't know when the results will come out, but I wish you success in getting that. And thank you, everybody, today for watching and listening. Please like it and share it. And I look forward to seeing you on the next Lunchtime Learnings. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.